The Operational Plan tab within the EWCO application helps you cover all the areas that need to be considered before you start planting. First area that needs to be considered before the operational plan is created is tree supply and biosecurity. In the tree supply and biosecurity section, our focus is on evaluating whether you have established contact with an approved supplier who are plant healthy certified. This is to minimize risk of pests and diseases. Please read the information in the grey box and ensure that your supply of trees meets the requirement for the EWCO grant. Your woodland officer can help you confirm this. Trees not purchased from a commercial supplier may be accepted. You will need to fill in a biosecure procurement requirement exception form. You can find all the important information regarding completing the application and EWCO terms and conditions in the EWCO grant manual or by searching EWCO on the gov.uk website. The next section we're looking at is to understand when you plan to plant over how many seasons. The planting season runs from October to March, but varies depending on geographical location. You must complete all capital work within the grant funding period, and the details of this can be found in the grant manual section 2.2.1. Since EWCO grant funds are paid in areas, here you can outline when you think your EWCO claim will be submitted. Please note that all work must be completed before you claim for it. Payments can be spaced out over 3 years, and you can use the anticipated claim year drop-down to provide us with this detail. You can make multiple claims, but you must submit your final claim within 3 months of your end of capital funding date. The next section to consider is physical protection. You need to ensure that you protect your new woodland from potential damage, particularly from mammals. Pick yes or no in the select drop-down box provided. Please complete the physical protection section. Here are some questions that you should ask yourself that will help you complete this section. For example, why have you selected certain protection method? Do you have tree shelters? Do you anticipate any mammal pressures? And if yes, what mammals are there likely to be there in the next 5 to 15 years? Are there any dangerous trees that may need to be removed? If fencing, is any clearing work needed, such as felling branches or trees off the fence line? And if so, is a felling license required? How are you going to recycle any plastic tubes? Have you thought about how to access and whether gates are required? In the physical protection section, we also provide the links to the best practice guidelines. Please refer to these for further increase your knowledge. Once again, this is quite a challenging area, and we recommend you consult with your woodland officer. For the full list of the protection items, please refer to the EWCO Grant Manual, Appendix 1. Next section is access. Under the access section, we're looking to understand how you plan to manage on-site traffic. Consider factors such as presence of accessible roads for vehicles, the availability of turning space, designated drop-off points, and storage areas for materials. Additionally, evaluate whether the existing roads are suitable for accommodating large lorries. Here are some questions to help you complete this section. Not all may be relevant to your project. Does your plan include a stone track? If so, have you considered planning permission requirements? For large woodland projects, have you planned for a loading bay or stone track to support on-site logistics? Will your forest roads, quarries, or infrastructure impact the environment and landscape, potentially bringing them under EAI regulations or planning controls. Have you planned a road drainage system to function independently from the main forest drainage network to avoid water and soil issues? Are there weak public roads or bridges near your site? If so, how can you adjust your forest road design to minimize the reliance on these roads for timber transport? Have you considered potential environmental sensitivities, such as drainage, as part of your timber transport and forest management planning? Do any of your planned access works require planning permission or a general permitted development order? More information about this is covered in the Operations Note 25, Roads and Tracks. For large projects, have you accounted for the potential number of on-site vehicles, including low loader and lorries? Have you completed the access section by selecting options from the drop-down lists and outlined any specific access requirements in the designated box? The aim of the cultivation section is to identify your plan for ground preparation that will lead to the best chance for your woodland success and reduce the risk of loss of carbon through soil disturbance. Please see Operations Note 53, Guidance on Cultivation and UKFS Compliance for application in England for more information. The best approach to this section is to consult with your woodland officer, who will advise on how to maximize your woodland creation project whilst minimizing carbon loss from the soil. But here are some questions that you may wish to consider. Cultivation methodology. What are the specific goals of the cultivation process? Which cultivation techniques will be used and why? How will cultivation techniques be adapted to different areas on the site? What is the timing of the cultivation activities? How will soil preparation be tailored to minimize disturbance? Mitigation of impacts. What measures are in place to prevent erosion and soil degradation? How will soil drainage and water quality be protected? How will potential carbon loss be minimized? What actions will be taken to protect biodiversity? How will ongoing monitoring and adaptive management be handled? As an alternative or used in collaboration to cultivation, the use of herbicide and insecticide can have both positive and negative impacts on your site and the surrounding environment. You need to ensure that any use of chemicals is appropriate. These questions may help you complete this section. Herbicide and insecticide use. How will you balance the short and long-term environmental impacts of herbicide and insecticide use? Why do you need to use the chemicals? Are there any negative environmental considerations that the use of chemical could have? Timing of application. What timing considerations will help you minimize chemical drift or wash off into the nearby watercourses? How will you avoid application during unfavorable weather conditions, wet, windy, or extreme temperatures? Method of application. Which application methods will you use, and how will you maintain buffer zones near watercourses? Pesticide mobility. How will you account for the solubility, soil absorption, persistence, and volatility of the chosen pesticides? What precautions will you take to prevent volatile pesticide evaporation in hot weather? Accidental spillages. What contingency plan is in place to handle accidental spillages, including communication and containment? Forest users. How will you manage public access to minimize risks, including restrictions, buffer zones, and signage? The section on fertilizers is wanting to understand your rationale for using them, as well as how you plan to ensure safe storage. Here are some questions you can use to help answer this section. Fertilizer use. What are the specific goals for fertilizer use? Which types of fertilizers will be used and why? What is the timing and method of application? How will the application vary across different site areas? Mitigation of impacts. What measures will prevent nutrient runoff and water pollution? How will soil and water quality be monitored? How will impacts on biodiversity be mitigated? How will long-term soil health be managed? What is the contingency plan for accidental over-application or spillage? The next section is about drainage. Drainage is important because it maintains optimal soil moisture, promotes healthy root development, prevents nutrient loss, controls pests and diseases, reduces erosion, improves site accessibility, and supports long-term forest sustainability. It is important to consider, and here are some questions to help you complete this section. Does your proposal require drainage? If so, what is the primary reason? What type of drainage will be used? For example, mole drains, open ditches. Where will the drainage be located on the site? Are you aiming to drain water off the site or prevent water from entering? Will there be any buffering strips or zones to protect water quality? How will you ensure that drainage practices do not negatively impact surrounding ecosystems? Are there any specific practice guidelines you follow for drainage design and implementation? This section of EWCO form can require a lot of forestry knowledge and seem quite challenging to complete. We recommend that you consult this with your woodland officer when they visit your site if you need further support.